Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Here we go, Barflies. Welcome to the Barfly Tailgate Show. You already know it's done by Barflies for Barflies and all the other Bears fans out there. Well, as y'all can see, we're a little shorthanded this morning. My man KB texted me, said he's feeling a little under the weather. I said, don't even sweat it, bro. Go ahead, take you a week off, get right, and come back with us next week and let us know how everything's going. My man across the pond never ever misses. He'll call it in, never. My boy C-Dub, what's going on, brother? How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, mate. Yeah, I'm always going to be here. You'd have to, cut my head off before you stop me coming here, mate. I'll be like that Monty Python sketch with the knight who gets its arms and legs chopped off and still wants to fight. So,
tis but a scratch.
Yeah, just a scratch, sir. What are you on about? So, you're actually left with the host with two of the best accents on the network. So I hope you get well soon, KB. Let's get into the show, AC.
Yeah, man. So the Bears did not play last week, so we didn't lose, which was nice. We had a nice little bye week, licking our wounds, but apparently it didn't go so well for some of our players. We'll get into that later. But we did play the Packers 2 weeks ago. We had a lead on them, and then it all started to fall apart. I can't place my finger on exactly what happened. It just seemed like Christian Watson decided to start playing, I guess, maybe, but they just kept pecking away at our lead, and all of a sudden we started missing field goals and stuff. That's
funny you said the field goal, because as soon as we had that miss, for some reason, deep down in my soul, I went, "That's it. We're fucked. We're fucked." Because it was sort of, we were playing so well. I mean, especially that sort of first quarter. On offense, we always seem to come out really strong at the start of the game when all the plays are scripted. So we seem to come out well. And Justin Fields looked miles better shape than I thought he was going to be. From what I mean, they don't really give much away our coaching staff. I never regarded injuries, but he were a lot better than I thought he was going to be. Because I thought, he sounded like he was, he shouldn't really be playing at all. But as soon as we had missed that field goal, man, I just thought, we're fucked. That's it. Yeah. I don't know why.
Yeah, I felt it in the pit of my stomach as well. I was like, man, that's gonna come back to bite us in the ass. I already know, and it kind of did. But I don't know. We lost momentum, but I did see some things. Coming out of the mini bye, that's when they changed the offense to more suit Justin Fields with his running ability. Well, in that game, he only ran the ball 6 times. So they were obviously trying to help protect his shoulder. And Fields was dropping some dimes out there, man.
Yeah, but don't you think Fields not running as much in the second half and a part of the problem, was not winning the game? Because I do. Because I know why there were an element of trying to protect the player, but it were working what were working in the first half. It was sort of like, as soon as we came back on the second half, it like went into that ultra conservative mode play calling. They were acting like we had like a 24-point lead over the Packers, and even then I wouldn't be sort of playing, totally conservative, because look at the game last night, how quickly games can switch and turn. You know what I mean? I mean, that were unbelievable. It would have pity that it was Vikings, but it's still a good game. But I just thought in the second half we just sort of closed down. I mean, do you reckon that's because we have like a defensive-minded coach rather than say an offensive guy? If that's how it would go.
Maybe that's part of it. We've seen Eberflus get conservative throughout the season. Times where I think in the New York Giants game where we punted to him late in the game instead of going for it on fourth and taking that sort of conservative type approach. I was really happy with what I saw from Fields hitting those deep balls. I think he hit EQ on one and he hit N'Keal Harry on one, which was nice to see.
But AC, did you think it was a bit weird that Harry caught that really good pass and then they took him off straight away?
Yeah, I think he had one snap. Yeah,
I don't even know if he actually played anymore in that drive, because we were getting quite close to the red zone. And I just kept thinking, well, he's just made this awesome catch, which must help in his confidence. And also, like, their defensive backs must be thinking, shit, we've got a bit of a problem. And then I can't remember him playing for the rest of the game. I don't really understand what's going on with him at all.
Yeah, I was a little confused by that as well. I mean, I'm not a coach. They don't pay me like those guys. Obviously, if they did, I don't know if I could do this every Sunday. But yeah, I don't. Some of the snaps that are given out, it doesn't make sense to me. We did see it was only 10 snaps, so a small sample size, but we did see Alex Leatherwood get some time at right tackle, which I like to see. I feel like that's a guy going forward that you want to see what you've got in him, especially, we got 4 games left. We're going against Super Bowl contenders this week and next week. Hell, you could say the rest of the season, because the Lions are as hot as anybody in the league. And then we finish off the season with the Vikings, who are one of the top teams in the NFC. So we got 4 good teams to finish off with that we can see how we can try and build for the future. I asked you before you got on the show, and I know you weren't exactly positive about it. Did you have a wanker of the week from last week? Did you want to throw it on Aaron Rodgers, and we'll talk about that a little bit? Or
you know what? Just after we start the show, I'm going to put it down onto the second half offensive play calling, because that was noticeable, man. I mean, I'm just a guy. I'm just a short, dim-witted, middle-aged guy.
Hang on, before you get too much into it, let me hit your intro for you.
Go on then, mate.
Piss off, you grassy little wanker!
Wanker! Shut up, you soppy wanker!
Wanker!
You're a wanker!
Wanker!
Stop being a wanker.
You are a wanker, Andy Marr. And I'll be honest, I didn't know that was coming, but I'll say it again, you are a wanker.
This is Chris Watts's Wanker of the Week.
All right, yeah, go ahead. So, in case you haven't seen the show, every week Chris Watts comes through and tells us his wanker of the week, who dropped the ball, who messed up, who's got the butterfingers, whatever it may be. Go ahead and hit it, Chris, and tell us who your wanker of the week was against the Packers.
You know what, Ace? I'm quite glad that you explained it before you handed it over to me, because if somebody just sort of, just came onto the program thinking, what's this pervert talking about? I'm not a pervert, man. It's just an English saying. So AC's always straighten it out. But the wanker of the week, mate, just for what we've been talking about, is the offensive coordinator in the second half. Some of the play calling was so vanilla. It was unbelievable. And I think that's what cost us the game. Like, the offense seemed to just shrunk, because he wasn't calling plays what were different. He just seemed to streak down, and he kept calling like bubble screens constantly. And every time he called them, they never ever worked. And that's the sort of play as well where the receiver can get quite a bad sort of, tackling the back as well. So, he's definitely. I don't know if it's just I don't know if it's the head coach because he's a defensive coach, and his ethos, if that goes throughout the coaching staff, regardless of what side of ball you're coaching. But it was so noticeable, mate. And I'm just like a middle-aged, short, dim-witted man from Yorkshire, England, and I noticed it. So that's the wanker of the week, mate. Absolutely. I think that, and also St. Brown's lack of effort. Well, I wouldn't say lack of effort, but lack of skill to catch that ball off Justin Fields when he got his first interception. That would a wanker of a play, man. Because that's like your bog standard sort of wide receiver pattern, and also you're supposed to be an NFL receiver, mate.
Right.
So I'll give them 2 wankers of the week, mate. Or wankers of 2 weeks ago. So I don't know if they've been wanking constantly for 2 weeks now, but there we go.
It was weird to see. We had a 9-point lead, and we kind of acted just like you said. We acted like we were up 24. We really needed to put our dagger in the throat there and go for the kill shot, but we tried to dial it back and run the clock out. I don't want to say it's a conspiracy, but it almost feels like they're all in on tanking. It really does feel like it somewhat, because we're just running the ball.
Is that just the play calling, AC, or do you think it's? Because I think, what do you think? Like, we seriously have a meeting and go, I don't know, a couple of days before the game, going, right, well, if in this situation, right, we're going to call these plays, so we're going to lose the game. I mean, surely they can't do that, because that'd be such a scandal.
Yeah.
I mean, surely that can't happen, surely.
I mean, I don't want to believe that they're tanking, but after this stuff came out with Brian Flores and the owners in Miami, where they were like, hey, don't worry about this year. We'll pay you such and such per loss. And then he was just like, screw it. He ended up going and winning some ball games. I wouldn't think that Eberflus would be that kind of guy, but it almost feels like he's hamstrung. I mean, Equinemius St. Brown, like you said, imagine, because he was going up against Jair Alexander. Both of them were former Packers. Getsy was a Packers quarterbacks coach.
True.
So Jair Alexander saw that play in practice for 2-3 years. You know what I mean? So I felt like that's what gave him the ability to really break on that ball. And
but the other way around is that's also given St. Brown, however long you're at the Packers, to know what that quarterback's tendencies are going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I just I don't want to say we're tanking, but it sure seems like we're tanking. I mean, my biggest upset on all of this, everyone wants to talk about the O-line.
Defensive line, about
our weapons. Our D-line gets zero pressure on anybody. Rodgers didn't get touched the whole game. Mike White stood back there and tore us to pieces, which, I mean, he's been fine, I guess, but he's not Mike Vick back there. You know what I'm saying? You got to get a hand on him. You got to get pressure on him. That's why I'm all in on drafting either Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. And if you can trade back and still get one of those guys, because I heard a report that came out this week that there's questions about Jalen Carter's personality or want to or something. All these stories always come out around the draft. If you can trade back and he falls in your lap, fucking go for it. I mean, and there's someone who could easily try and move up and get. Right now we're at 3. We need the Broncos to try and win some games down the stretch to move themselves back down for us to get 2. But it's just, and the Broncos have winnable games. I think they play the Rams still, and they play the Cardinals, both without their starting quarterbacks. Although Baker Mayfield went out there 2 days and won a ball game for the Rams. So who knows how that ends up going out there in LA? Maybe Baker resurrects their dead offense. I have no idea. But
I mean, I think Stafford as well. I think he'd hummed and hard about retirement anyway. So if the Rams if Baker Mayfield, carries on playing well, then they might just hand it over to him if Stafford wants to retire. But regarding our D line, man, I don't think I've seen a D line this bad for the Chicago Bears I can't even remember, mate. Absolutely shocking. It's like there's no penetration.
right.
There's no really sort of good hand placement or anything like that. And they just seem to be flat-footed constantly. Everybody seems to be flat-footed and sort of stood up to sort of vertical for me to get any sort of push on the opposition's line. And I think that's definitely one for. I think we probably should draft like the defensive tackle and then get a really good defensive end through free agency. Somebody who's done it. You know what I mean? You can have
looking at free agency though. You've got more big names at defensive tackle than you do defensive end.
Oh, that'd be really right.
Because those pass rushers on the end, they just don't hit free agency. You know what I'm saying? That you're just not going to find them there. Daron Payne looks like he's going to hit free agency because the Commanders have invested so many draft picks in their defensive line. They may feel like they can let him walk, and that definitely if they go get Daron Payne. I mean, maybe you still try and put Jalen Carter with him, and then you got two monsters in the middle, really tearing shit up. Or maybe they try and get Will Anderson and put him on the edge and have Daron Payne on the inside. But the whole D line needs to be reworked. I don't know if there's a single guy there other than maybe his name just slipped my mind. Justin Jones. He's the only one I see ever get any sort of penetration, and even he should probably be a depth guy.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I don't know if that could be an element. Could be down to coaching as well. To be that bad for such a long period of the season, and it's not being. We all see it. The coaches obviously see it, and it's not being resolved at all. So I don't know if they've got like the D line coach needs to be looked at the end of the season because, what we're seeing is. Well, I can't. It's the worst D line I've seen in Bears history, maybe ever.
I think it's more about talent than it is coaching. I mean, you got Travis Gibson, who we expected to take a step this year, but really hasn't. And then you've got Al-Qadim Muhammad, who hasn't done much. We picked him up in free agency. You've got Dominic Robinson, who they drafted this year. He's still learning the position. You know what I'm saying? Armon Watts, I've seen flashes of him, and I like what I've seen out of him as far as almost a run-stuffing defensive tackle, but I still feel like he's a depth piece. I feel like we have guys that should be on the bench in a rotation, and they're starters for us because our talent deficient. Our talent is so deficient. HR here asks about Miles Murphy. Would he be a good fit? This is a defensive end out of Clemson, I believe. Right. HR, I'm not a tape guy. And honestly, if we trade down and get Miles Murphy, maybe he'd be a good fit. I mean, anyone who can rush the passer, I feel like would be a good fit. I do worry about the conference that Miles Murphy played in. The ACC is not very strong. This could be a good question for Jordan or the guys from Draft on Tap when they come back because, they break down the tape. They know what they're looking at. They were scouts, so they know they have a far more educated eye than I do.
But you always sound like you do know what you're on about.
See,
you're halfway there, mate. You're halfway there.
You just say it with confidence, and that gets you partially there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like if you're trying to sneak in somewhere, if you just walk in with confidence and act like you're supposed to be there, a lot of times they're not going to question it.
Yeah, that's how I've lived most of my adult life.
Well, did you do anything over the bye week, Chris? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, last weekend just watched football. Really, it was boring Sunday afternoon. I was bored, and it felt weird. You know what I mean? Not talking to you guys. It just felt a bit odd. But also as well, it was sort of, I didn't have to worry about the Bears and sort of think about them so much. You know what I mean? But yeah, like yesterday evening, race man. I quite like him having like 3 games on a Saturday. That were awesome. Just got loads of food in and just enjoyed watching football because we're getting to that part of the season now where you realise that we've only got about 2 months left. And then bang, that's gone for 9 months of our lives again. Yeah. So I'm trying to just watch as much as I can. I hate that feeling that, I don't want to miss out on a really good, moment because, the season is relatively quite short, really. So, yeah, I just chilled out, mate. And what else have I done? Oh, yeah, I went on the Bears Country podcast. I did that on Wednesday with Mr. Shorty and Lynn, who he does another show with, who's just absolutely awesome. And yeah, it's been a bit of an unusual week, mate, definitely. But yeah, it was just nice not to sort of get stressed so much, on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, Mr. Shorty. Speaking of him, he's in our chat today, so he's definitely cool, listening in, which is nice. Yeah, my week was man, it was hectic. I had like I told you guys around Thanksgiving, my son's shower started leaking.
Oh, yeah.
We called the plumbers out. They came out 3 times before they finally figured out the issue. They had to cut into the ceiling to fix it. And then I had to call someone else to come in and put mud on it. And they're supposed to come and they have to paint my whole ceiling, which it's
called plaster, AC. It's called plaster.
Well, so they were fixing all that. On top of that, my son got strep throat. And
shit.
Yeah. Last Sunday, I just watched the Red Zone, which was pretty cool to watch. It's amazing to see all these other teams that are able to get pressure and their plays work. And Mahomes just doing Mahomes things. I saw him do this wild pass. And
yeah, but don't you sometimes just want to because when it's going on to different sort of games, don't you just miss the flow of watching a game, just the flow of the game? Obviously, last night with the Minnesota game, how it just completely flips upside down in the second half.
Well, I mean, a lot of times though they break in and they'll say, "Well, this is what's going on here." Mm-hmm. They don't just show you one game; they'll triple.
Oh no, I've seen it. Yeah,
box it sometimes, and usually they'll just. I mean, you don't get to see an entire game start to finish, but you get to see a lot of action from all over the NFL, which I enjoy as I'm a Bears fan at heart, but I am an NFL consumer. I consume all of them, and I've got my eyes on other. Also, that's going to help us in free agency. If any of these guys hit free agency, that say, "Oh, I saw him playing for such and such. He did this, this, and that." You know what I'm saying? I feel like it helps me be a more well-rounded fan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm exactly the same, AC. I mean, I always watch as many games as I can through the week. Because of all different teams, it's like you say, it gives you a bit of an idea where the Bears are, but. Ever since I first got into football, when I was about 13, 14, it wasn't just the Bears, it was the overall NFL and the sport itself. So I've always, watched as much as I can, and I watch anybody really. So yeah, very much to the too. But I do like watching just one game and seeing the flow of the game. So yeah, I think my brain's just getting too old to handle all the different games that they put on really quick. I'm like, well, what the fuck just happened in that game? And then they'll be on to a different one and somebody else is doing something amazing. So yeah, I must be getting old, mate. That's what it must be.
So we got a couple of questions in the chat for you. Renewable and Rechargeable Review says, what's the difference between a wanker and a tosser?
Actually, they're both the same thing.
Oh, see, there is no difference. Renewable, so you can just throw them interchangeable. And then I Love Chitlins says, what made this guy care about the NFL at all, not rugby or whatever, and why the Bears? I know when I was in Dubai, they were huge about rugby. We were waiting on a flight to go to Kuwait to come back home, and there was rugby on the TV, and I was like, man, this shit is brutal. Like, I could see myself getting into it if I lived in that area. So what is it about the NFL and the Bears in itself that pulled you, sucked you in and won't let you leave, Chris?
Well, I mean, one of the sort of first things were I had an uncle, Terry, who's passed now, but he started getting into them. Well, basically what happened was there were a couple of things that happened. First of all, there were a TV show, an NFL show that started on one of the channels over here. Basically, it were an hour and a quarter highlight show but it like the highlights of the week before. So that's like, you know what I mean? This is like the mid-80s. So you got to think how things were. We had no internet or anything. So basically, we were just watching, like, you know, they had like pundits on and stuff like that. So we'd watch like, you know, little bits and all that. And then suddenly they started showing like a whole playoff game. So, you know, so then people had to realise, you know, what a whole game's like and all this. And it was my Uncle Terry, he first got into it in 1983. He became a 49ers fan. And he kept going to me, he kept going, oh, I've got into American football. I'm going, oh, yeah. But also, another main factor is that when it was the Super Bowl day of the Chicago Bears in '86, the best mate, Paul, he bought a rugby ball, like an orange cheap plastic thing, and he drew like with a marker pen, like at the college stripes, and like the pretend sort of like where the stitching is and all that. So I knock on his door, and he comes out with this rugby ball. And I say, what are you doing to it? Rugby ball, man? And he goes, oh, no, it's an American football. And I knew sort of what the game was. So he sort of threw me the ball. And I threw it back, and I thought, yeah, I like this because I played cricket and all that sort of thing. So I like the element of passing a ball. And then I tried to watch some of the Super Bowl at night. And obviously I didn't understand what was really happening in the game. But after that, me and my mate just got really into it. There was like a magazine that came out every week, and it kept telling you about the NFL and different teams and all the players at the time. That was like his Bible. And I just started watching it, man. And then my uncle Terry said, oh, there's like local teams who actually play American football in Leeds. And they were like a junior side. So I was only 14 at the time. And I went down, trialed out, and then I started playing running back. So it was quite mad to think that all we had, and this is all the way through the sort of mid to late 80s, we just had this hour-long show of highlights, and that was like the introduction. And I know I've told this before to you, AC, but there used to be, I mean, there's still are, but there used to be absolutely loads of local American football clubs all over the country. Like Leeds had two. When it first started in the mid to late 80s, they had quite a lot of money pumped in by Budweiser, and they had American players come over and play at the skill positions, more or less. So it was probably like semi-league sort of level. And yeah, so that's how I got into it, man. I mean, another thing as well is that football seemed to be so far ahead of how we did sport in this country. Like your preparation, your training, you know, how athletic we are. I mean, our rugby players compared to NFL players in the mid-80s, man. You know, they were so far behind on fitness. So yeah, that's how I got into it, mate. I know that was a bit long-winded, but yeah, that's how I got into it, mate. That's how because the Chicago Bears in '85, they really sold this sport to the world, and especially in Britain. Everybody went mad about Jim McMahon, the Fridge, and Walter Payton, and that's, you know what I mean. That's how I got into them.
Well, playing running back, I'm sure Walter Payton fed in a lot to you
right.
falling in love with the Bears, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. We were just sort of, as I mentioned, we got these magazines every week, and the first team what they went through was the Bears, and I just looked at like Walter Payton, and then they had a picture of Jim McMahon and the Fridge, and I just thought, that's my fucking team, that. And I know they just won the Super Bowl, so people go, oh well, you're just glory hunting, but it's before I really knew that they won a Super Bowl. I just looked at the pictures and thought, that's my team, and that's been my team ever since, and it'll never change.
Well, John says let's get Chris to Soldier Field. We're gonna look into that maybe next year. Try and get you across the pond over here. Maybe get a barroom meetup and something. It's
a bit weird actually mention it, AC, because Mr. Shorty has actually he's actually set up a GoFundMe page, and the GoFundMe is to get Chris Watson over to Chicago next year to a game.
We'll have to get Aldo to put that on the barroom Facebook page.
Yeah. Actually, I've already sort of contacted Aldo, and Aldo's obviously cool about it. So I only found out this week, and the advert's really funny. It's got like a slight Monty Python sort of music background, but it's just, you know, what a nice gesture, man. I'm a little bit blown away, and you know, even if it don't equate to anything, just knowing that somebody, you know, take time out of the day to set up a GoFundMe page like Dan did means the world. So yeah, you'll see the advert on the channel soon, no doubt. It's really good, and you know, if you, like I said, if you can't put any money towards it, don't worry about it. I'm just going to send the lads around in the morning.
Yeah, man, that sounds really good. Mr. Shorty said he could send me the info. We'll get all that information out, and here at the ballroom, we'll get Chris across the pond, get him to a Bears game, and I'll have to make a trip up to Chicago,
Oh,
show
man,
you
it.
some of my favorite pizzas and some Italian beef sandwiches, man. Get into some food and live it up there in Chicago. That'd be a great freaking barroom weekend for sure.
Oh yeah, it'd be absolutely
John
awesome,
says,
mate.
let's go. We'll have to we'll work all that out with Aldo for sure. They had a meet and greet this year when Dan and Buffon was out there, so we'll have to set something up for that again next year, which would be awesome. I guess we just got to bite the bullet and get into this game today, man. I've tried to put it off as long as I could.
Thinking, AC don't usually ask me these sort of questions.
Well, the guys in the chat were asking, so obviously they want to know.
Fair enough. So I'm only doing it on my phone, so I don't see the chat. So let's get through this next half hour, mate, and see how it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing that I'll be watching today, I feel like we have a guy in Justin Fields that closely relates to the way Jalen Hurts plays. So we could maybe see, okay, how can the Bears become that team that the Eagles are? The Eagles, I was listening to Hogan Johns this week when they did their preview with an Eagles writer, and he said basically they've invested in the trenches. They have invested in draft picks and free agency, etc. in the O-line and D-line. If you look at their D-line, they're absolutely stacked. They've got Josh Sweat and Ndamukong Suh, Jordan Davis, who they drafted out of Georgia. They've got just dogs on the D-line. And then the O-line, we all know they've got the best one in the league. They drafted Lane Johnson. They drafted their left tackle in like the 6th or 7th round. If I'm not mistaken, he's a guy that played rugby back in the day. They just kind of took a chance on him late.
No, I actually remember seeing. I actually remember seeing some. I think like on the NFL Network before. Might have been before the draft or something like that. And he was a massive. I mean, he's a massive guy, but he was a phenomenal rugby player. So you imagine him running at you like full, like forget Derek Henry. Imagine this dude coming at you at full belt. And he got no pads or anything, mate. So I mean, that's just like. That's a dream for them as well, because obviously I don't know if it must have been like a low round pick because of where he's come from. So he's an absolute beast, man. I saw him on an interview this week, and I think some other team were rubbishing their quarterback, and they were like effing and blinding a bit, and he thought, yeah, man, I like to have him in a fight as a backup. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You don't want to meet that guy in a dark alleyway. That's
no
for sure.
way, man. I'll be straight off.
But a lot of people like to talk down about the Bears O-line, but lately, as far as PFF grades, now take that with a grain of salt, if you will. Braxton Jones was the top-rated rookie of this rookie class at left tackle. Tevin Jenkins has been holding his own at right guard. Cody Whitehair, I haven't heard his name much, which is usually a good thing for an offensive lineman. I would love to see Leatherwood at right tackle to try and get some youth movement in there. We got a month to figure out what we got in him, and then, if he's not the guy, you go to the draft. But even the center position, Sam Mustipher, who's been the vitriol of so many Bears fans.
Oh yeah,
he's come along a little bit, and he's doing okay. I do think Braxton Jones needs to get in that weight room this offseason to help him with the bull rush. But
anytime like a guy gets his hands sort of inside and onto his chest, he's flying backwards. I think the O-line has improved a lot. I mean, they're still really good at the run blocking, but I think the pass section, certainly got better. I just feel a bit sorry for Mustipher because, like, obviously he's got the intellect and the mentality to play that position. But will the guy ever have the actual core strength and the strength you need to snap the ball and immediately you're in contact into your blocks? So it'd be interesting to see what they're doing in the offseason, really, regarding the O-line, really.
Yeah, that's true. I'm a draft nerd, so I've already looked at some offensive.
How many drafts have you done? How many have you done, AC?
Oof, I don't even want to count, man. I usually use the draft networks, and their mock draft simulator's down right now. So I've been using, I think it's called PFF or something. I don't know. It's a
Right.
mock draft simulator that you can simulate the whole 7 rounds and trades and all that kind of stuff. And I've been getting some decent little trades on there. Yeah, as far as the center, there's the kid out of Minnesota that KB talked about, Schmitz. I guess I've seen him on there. The kid out of Michigan, who may or may not come out, which I love Michigan's offensive line. They're just nasty up front. So if we can get that in the building, that would be a good thing for us. I think Ohio State's center is possibly coming out. I don't know if he played with Justin when he was there or not. I think Justin's center plays for the Packers now, actually, Josh Myers. But yeah, there's some centers in the draft to be had. There's some tackles if Alex Leatherwood isn't if you don't think he's the guy, or even if you just want to bring in depth pieces. There's decent offensive tackles, but I mean, my biggest thing is still that D line, man. You got to have guys up. You got to have dogs up front. You know what I'm saying? And I think they're really going to attack that with free agency and the draft, to be completely honest. The Bears' offensive line gets a lot more hate than I feel like they should have. And I know it helps when you have a mobile quarterback that can get himself out of trouble sometimes. But, I mean, this offensive line is doing better than I expected, to be completely honest, especially the last few weeks. Now, they will have a huge test today with, like I just said, the Philadelphia Eagles is possibly one of the best D-lines in the league. And then next week they get to play the Bills, who rush the passer as good as anybody as well.
The Bills have lost. What's that defensive end called?
Von Miller. He's out for the season.
So he's out. So I mean, at least that's one bit of their jigsaw missing. But yeah, it's like the D line, man. We just need to get some. I like to see, because I think as well, because the NFL a lot it is like a more or less a passing league. I like to see pressure up the middle, because especially if it's a quarterback who isn't a runner, the quicker you get up, like it always happens to Tom Brady, if somebody can get pressure in his face rather than that from the side, so he can't step up into the pocket, then that would be awesome, man. And then sort of finish it off with like a top quality D end, who it's going to get 10 plus sacks. And yeah, I mean, what about the linebackers? AC, what do you think about the linebackers?
My guy the jackhammer has been balling out, bro.
Yeah, he has.
Honestly, at this point, I know we didn't get to see them play together because they had the depth chart differently, but I wouldn't have minded seeing him next to Roquan back there. I know it's a lost cause, but I've been cheering for the Ravens to lose as many games as they could so we can help out with that second-round draft pick. But Jack Sanborn does it all, man. He's good in coverage. He's good in tackles. I did hear them say on Hogan Johns today, does it remind you a little bit of who's the guy who went to Las Vegas after he left here?
Floyd. Leonard Floyd.
No, not Floyd. I'm talking the middle linebacker. I can't remember his name, but he kind of they were saying, is he kind of like him, where he shows you a lot and he surprises you at where you picked him up at, but is there a low ceiling there? I don't see it. I think he's going to continue to get better and better. He'll get faster and faster, and we'll see. Nick Quickhouse, thank you, KB, my man. He's in here coming through on sickness and letting us know what's up.
Get your ass out of bed, KB. That's really what's going on, isn't it? Really, you know what I mean? Get that ass out of the bed, mate.
Yeah, they were saying maybe he's a lot like him, where you don't expect it out of him, so it kind of takes you by surprise, and you think he looks better than he does. I think he's looked great. I think he's done everything you could ask of your middle linebacker to do. He's already calling plays. He's already a leader on defense. I think he'll get that captain thing next year for real. Get that C on his chest.
How old is he as well, KB? I mean, he can't be very old if it's like his first year out of college. What, he's like 22 or something like that?
Well, with the COVID years and the red shirt years that they get in college now, he might be a little older than we thought.
Right.
Like Velus Jones, you said, he's 25-year-old rookie. So I can Google it real quick and find out Jack Sanborn age. Oh,
fairly
22 years old. So you get a
Wow.
decade out of this guy in the middle if he can keep up his, knock on wood, barring any injuries, he should be able to lock down the middle of that field. And maybe you draft a Will to replace him. I got to be honest with that Packers game. Josh Blackwell was out there doing his fucking job. That guy shocked me. The way they threw him in the nickel, which is a question going forward if they want to keep Gordon in the nickel, if they want to move him outside. If Blackwell gets a shot in the nickel, I would love to see that. I mean, if you can lock down because our secondary is good. It's hard to cover anybody for 15 seconds. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah,
like
totally,
if your D line's not getting home, it doesn't matter how good you are. Caesar says, "How's Rowe doing in Baltimore?" He's been fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
all right.
I did see him pick off Mitch Trubisky last week, which was I was like, holy shit, Bears on Bears crime out here. It was crazy to see two different former Bears. One throws a pick to the other one. Of course he does these Roquan things. He's going to rack up tackles. He's going to do those kinds of things. He's not asked to do as much in their defense because it's a 3-4, which is what he's best suited for, I believe. So him and Patrick Queen in the middle is kind of a good tandem, but they're going to have Baltimore's going to have some decisions to make this offseason with Lamar Jackson's contract coming up, and Roquan's only there for half a season. He'll have his contract coming up as well. They'll have to figure all that out there at Baltimore. But
sorry, AC. I think as well though for Baltimore, he's got like a lot better defensive line in front of him as well, which is going to make it a lot easier for him because he needs them linemen to take them plays out because he ain't really the biggest linebacker going. He has to use his speed and that's something what I really liked about the jackhammer, man. He seems to just read the game a lot. He seems to sort of have a good eye for where the ball's going. But then I also think, well, is it because our defensive linemen are that shit that everybody's going to get through to whoever linebacker level is? You know what I mean? So, but it's been a nice story in a season without many nice stories. I like to say that about the jackhammer.
I'm loving the nickname, dude. That's I looked up his jersey. They didn't have his jersey for just him, but you can make those custom ones. But at the time when I looked him up, there was like $140 to make a custom one. I was like, I love you, Jack, but buddy, I gotta wait for a Christmas sale or something on these motherfuckers.
I just keep expecting like the last couple of weeks here to turn up with a new jackhammer top on. I'm quite surprised there, see.
We'll see how this offseason goes. I'll have my eyes on it. But, I mean, depending on who we draft, man, I might have because I love me some Jalen Carter. I have fallen in love with this prospect. Just the way it's like the Rams with and without Aaron Donald. You throw Aaron Donald in there, and the way he just and I know that's high praise for a rookie, but the way he penetrates and just goes after it and gets his job done, I'm falling in love with this prospect, honestly, to the point where, depending on how the draft falls to us, maybe don't trade back. Just grab your generational talent. Speaking of generational talents, we haven't seen my man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jordan Silvera. Good morning, brother. Perfect timing. We're just talking some draft picks. What is up, my guy?
Aaron, C-Dub, Chris, everybody, I appreciate you having me. I know it's been ages, but I'm back we'll see.
I don't even know this. Who is this person? Who is this person at the bottom screen? Who is it? But no, it's great to see you, Jordan, mate. It's been far too long. And AC desperately needs somebody with a bit of draft knowledge because he knows he's going to get nothing out of me when it comes to the draft. So great to see you, mate. And I hope you're doing well.
Are you a little behind here? I feel like you're frozen right now.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and AC, thank you for having me Me?
Yeah, it's definitely there's a big delay. If you want to hop out and hop back in, I'll try and add you and see if we can fix this delay a little bit. I can try and talk a little bit more about some draft prospects, and then I'll ask you about them when you come in. Aldo says JTS sighting. We got Jordan back. I'm gonna pop him out and Jordan just hit leave studio and come right back in, and we'll see if that fixes everything. Yeah.
It's usually my side. What's usually the one with a massive drag on it. So
right.
I blame the USA for this one.
Well, he's on the other side of the country. Maybe that's the problem. I thought he was just.
True. I mean, we are far apart on this one.
Yeah. I thought he was just sleepy, and then I realized no, he's definitely on a delay. But all right. It says device is not connected. So give him just a second to get back in here. But we'll talk. Did you watch any college ball, Chris? I don't know how it works over there. Do you guys get? I know you watched some Kentucky games, but
I mean the only way really. I mean you can subscribe to ESPN to get the college ball, but I'm not. All I do is I just go on the YouTube. I can see to find plenty of live games on there. But it's most. I'm quite glad you've asked me about college football, AC, because you're starting QB and you start a running back. They're not going to play the bowl game, are they, because of a draft? So how do you feel about that? Or how do you feel? Because if I were like a player in that squad, I'd be going, you fucking arsehole. Especially if like a really important player. I know why they're doing it, but just like, as you all put that work in, and then you're only going to do this once in your life, and then two of your best players are going, well, I've got to look after myself, fellas. You know what I mean? So I'll see you when I get the NFL check.
I think a lot of them, especially in this day and age, they understand it. They understand the meaning behind it. Right. It's becoming a business, and especially with Will Levis, who's looking to be a top 10 draft pick, top 5 draft pick. Say he goes out there and plays this bowl game against Iowa, who we played last year in a lower level bowl game, tears his ACL. Yeah. There goes his career. You know what I'm saying? If anything happens at all, and he's worked through injuries the whole year. He went on a podcast called the Pin It Deep podcast, which is a Kentucky football podcast hosted by former Ray Guy award-winning punter Max Duffy, who's Australian.
Right.
Well, he went on there to talk to them like right after the season ended. And basically it sounded like he was a lot more hurt than they would let anyone know. That's why you didn't see him running as much this year. You couldn't see him really plant and make the deep ball throws that we saw last year a couple of times. And I know these sound like excuses, but it made sense to me that he would sit this out. Now, if we were in the Orange Bowl against Clemson, maybe he's playing, or if we're in the championship like Georgia is, then he's definitely playing. But I mean, he didn't have much to gain out of this game, especially against a team that he's already played against, and they're, I think, top 2 quarterbacks opted out. So they've got a guy who's never taken a college snap playing for them. It's one of the – I'm going to watch it because I'm a Kentucky fan, but it's it's probably going to be one of the least watched bowl games this season, honestly. Jordan, are you back with us now?
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
We hear you, yeah.
I still feel like it's a delay, though. I don't know if it's on.
Nice.
I don't know.
No, I don't know. It might be on my end. I don't know. My internet says it's connected. It's just I don't know. I'm just gonna ask you straight up, Jordan. Who are the draft picks you're looking at for our first pick? Are you in team trade down? Are you in team draft the guy? And if so, who are those players that you got your eyes on? Well, Jordan asked me to move him to the backstage because he is struggling. I don't know if it's him or if it's me. That's the tough part. We should probably get into this Eagles game a little more. So we talked about.
Sorry, AC. Just one thing more about the draft.
Go ahead.
I'm sure last year you were sort of thinking more like traded down the pick, and I was having to think about, and you might, I don't know if you still think the same way, but I was just thinking, well, now we've got this like big cap space. That gives us a chance to fill up a lot of players' numbers with a cap, and then that gives us, the foundation for us to pick these hopeful generational talents. You know what I mean? So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. It's kind of a crapshoot in free agency, though. I mean, that's a crapshoot either way when you're adding talent to your team. In free agency, yes, you've seen them in the league, but you also seen them in a different scheme, possibly under different coaching, with different, I don't know, even different weight rooms and stuand not everyone has the same level of, and we have a great one thanks to Ryan Pace, who went out and put together a fantastic Hallis Hall apparently, and built up our facilities, which is great, to try and help us get the edge up on the competition. We haven't seen it flourish on the field yet, but we do have hope
nice
for the future. Yeah. And it kind of helps you pitch to those free agents like, hey, if you come here, we've got these world-class facilities. You have a great chance to start. That's a big thing in free agency. They're not going to go somewhere and sit behind somebody else. So that's definitely something to watch. But
it just seems to me, it's sort of, if you have seen a player play the NFL, and I completely agree with the point you made, AC, surely if that player is good in the NFL, then that's got to be a safer bet than drafting a player who's never played in the NFL and who could just fall apart or get an injury or whatever, you know what I mean? Maybe I'm just thinking more than the free agency side rather than a draft.
Well, it depends on what you're looking at. Also, in free agency, especially if they're just off their rookie contract, a lot of these GMs, it's a good old boys league. So they go from one, I mean, we brought in polls from Kansas City. You see in Buffalo, they bring in a guy, or in New York, they bring in a guy from Buffalo. A lot of these guys are kind of passed around. They're groomed into an organization. So they're doing scouting. A lot of these players, especially on their second contract, they can remember back to that draft and say, well, I really like this guy because I saw this, and that in him. So we'll bring him in and see if we can do anything. Jordan says he's just going to hop in the chat. We're having issues.
That's your fault, AC. That's not to do with the incident over here in Great Britain. No, that's definitely got to be your fault this time.
Oh yeah, Great Britain. They have great internet. Who did they take it from someone else?
We probably invented the internet, so I think we did. So nothing more to be said.
I'm not sure what's going on with Jordan. I was really hoping to get him in today. I know he'll have great insight.
Next show we'll organise it better. Next show, ask him a couple of days beforehand or something like that, and unless that's what you did, so we'll try and get him on in a future issue.
He says he's hardwired, so it shouldn't be as much of an issue. That's the. I mean, I'm on Wi-Fi, so maybe that's the issue. He's hardwired, and I'm on Wi-Fi. Maybe I'm slower than him, and it's messing things up. I don't know, but
hey, AC, don't put yourself down, brother.
So Jalen Carter, the guy I really like. Chris, you should probably see him over there because he'll be in the playoffs. They play Ohio State in the first game. If they win that, they're going to play either TCU or Michigan. I'm really hoping it's Michigan. I would love to see the Georgia-Michigan facing off the Big Ten versus the SEC. Two big schools, big fan bases, and it'll be fun to watch, especially Jalen Carter against their – Michigan has a fantastic offensive line, and they run the ball really well. So it'd be a hell of a matchup if they make it. What'd you say there?
I was just going to say it'd be a nice bit of scouting to watch him play that game if he plays against Michigan. Yeah,
for sure. They did come out this week that I was a little surprised by this. You were talking about guys who are opting out. The Alabama players have opted in. They're playing. Young, who's the quarterback for them, is projected a first overall pick. He's playing. Will Anderson is playing as well, who could be as high as the second overall pick. So, the guys have different reasons to play or not to play.
I can imagine a lot of that's down to Nick Saban. How are you going to say no as a play to Nick Saban? He'd probably just end up, I don't know what he'd do to him, but it wouldn't be pleasant.
All right, Jordan Silveira has given me another name. He says he prefer to trade back. Give me Tyree Wilson if you can move back. Tyree Wilson is a defensive end from Texas Tech, I believe. I haven't watched much on him or done much film work or anything like that. I've kind of been focused in on guys like Will Anderson, Brian Barisi, the guy someone said earlier, Miles Murphy. Those are good names that I've seen. I have seen Tyree Wilson, but I've seen him kind of lower down on the big boards, which I guess would make sense if you trade back. But yeah, that's definitely a name to look out for. I'll check into him and see what I see. Don Burr says he's injury prone and a one-trick pony, which could be tricky because we've already got a defensive end who's kind of a one-trick pony, although he was a 5th-round pick. J-Rock says he's not big on Tyree Wilson. Let me get Jordan's thing here. Tyree Wilson is a defensive end that has size to bulk up and move inside the 3 technique. Think Logan Hall and DeForest Buckner. So those are names. Logan Hall was a big name last year in the draft. I think the Buccaneers ended up drafting him, if I'm not mistaken. And DeForest Buckner is a guy that's in Indianapolis. He was under Eberflus. He could be a cap casualty. Maybe he's a guy that the Bears are looking out for this offseason.
Maybe, yeah.
If they swing and miss on Daron Payne or even don't have interest in Daron Payne. Maybe DeForest Buckner is a guy that fits their scheme more. He gives them a veteran leadership type stance. That could be something to watch for. Bear Truth 9 says, I like Will Anderson. He looks tight in his hip movement. I listened to Hogan Johns. I had Dane Brugler on during the bye week, and they talked to him about his first mock draft, and his first mock draft had us taking Will Anderson. Yeah. And he said that he likes what he does off the edge. He's really fast. The biggest issue he sees with him is missing tackles. He'll be in position and miss tackles, which could be a huge issue, especially at this level when you've got Derrick Henry's running at you. You know what I'm saying? If you miss that tackle.
Tackling like across the league is something which drives me absolutely insane. You know, the sort of techniques some players try and use all the time. So if you can't do it in the college, kid, you're not going to do it in the pros, mate. No chance.
That's definitely true. And maybe that drops his draft stock a little bit, you know, as things heat up. We'll see how he does at the combine and all those kinds of things. You know, those numbers make people jump up boards all the time, the 40s and whatnot. But, I mean, if you can trade back and Will Anderson falls in your lap or someone like that, that would be a crazy storyline going into the draft. I feel like we haven't talked much about this Eagles game. I feel like we're all just looking forward to this season being over and going into the off season. But there are things that we can learn in these next few games. As I said, these are Super Bowl contenders, and we're on the other end of that rebuild. Like I said, with the Eagles, they put a lot of money and draft picks into their trenches, O-line and D-line. That's definitely a good way to build your offense. And they just so happen to fall into A.J. Brown, who is a generational talent on the outside. It actually got the Tennessee Titans GM fired because he didn't know what the fuck he was doing, obviously. Yeah. So, I mean, that'll be something to watch today when you've got – and I kind of feel like – and I know he wasn't drafted as high. He didn't go to the same college or anything like that. But Darnell Mooney compared to Devontae Smith, maybe we already have a Devontae Smith as far as going to try and build it like the Eagles. Maybe we already have that piece. We just have to find A.J. Brown. I mean,
the rest of it.
those guys don't grow on trees, though. You know what I'm saying? And it is unfortunate that Chase Claypool, I saw yesterday, I believe, or maybe the day before, he has been declared out for this game. I was hoping to see him and Fields build that chemistry over this last month of the season and hopefully tell us Bears fans, okay, you don't have the 33rd overall pick anymore, but we've got a dog at wide receiver. we haven't really seen it. I mean, I was hoping to see it. I had high hopes when he made the trade. I understood why they made the trade because the Packers were trying to swipe him, and they had a high pick as well. So we couldn't use the Ravens pick because it was lower than the Packers. I believe it's still lower than the Packers. So unfortunately, it cost us a lot, but you got to see that return on investment. If you look into free agency, there's not a ton of guys there. Maybe a DJ Chark from Detroit who's finally got on the field and made some plays over the last couple of weeks. Maybe, OBJ is probably going to sign a 1-year contract somewhere. They're saying Dallas. I don't know. So he'll probably be back into it. There's some names, but I feel like Poles like the idea of having Claypool, 6'4" guy from the area, kind of go up and get it kind of guy. But
I think personally, the Philadelphia Eagles are really how they've transformed itself in the last sort of 2 years is really the route the Bears should go, because it's like one of the oldest sort of statements out there regarding football is you build from the inside out, and it's just proved that it works. You get both of them lines playing well, and then you've got a decent quarterback. And I think Fields could be just as good as him, in another year's time if he keeps improving. But it just proves that I like how we've done it. I like how we've done it in free agency. But it's just because they've got them two great, a great offensive line and a great D line, and it just makes, and I think that sort of sets your whole team up then. So I'm hoping the Bears, see how they did it and copy it. So, they always go it's a copycat league. Because I just like how they built the roster up, the Eagles. I really do. I think it's really, really impressive, and they seem to have done it really quickly as well. Because last season they weren't great, so they haven't really been great since they won the Super Bowl. So I think that's quite a good business model to copy for the Bears in the future.
Yeah, and they've made good offseason moves too. I mean, they've traded up and down through the draft. The Saints helped them out a lot. The Saints seem to not care about draft picks almost as much as the LA Rams. So actually the Eagles have the best record in the NFL and a top 5 draft pick. So they have set themselves up for that. They really set them up so if Jalen Hurts didn't work out this year, they could go get another guy and try and work him out. But Jalen Hurts has worked out. That's a steal. In the second round, you get a franchise quarterback who can do it all. Jordan Silvera says best thing this year is to get Justin Fields gets through healthy. Obviously, that's number one. And CJG, who's Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, doesn't find his way to the ball 2 to 3 times. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is a guy I talked about on my NFL podcast when they made the trade. He's a guy that I really like. He plays well, and he's kind of like a Deion Sanders type player who he's going to beat you, and then he's going to tell you about it all day long. Remember, this is the guy who got in boxing matches with Anthony Miller and Javon Wims when we played.
Oh, yes.
Them.
Oh, yeah. I know
Johnson's that same guy. He is that dude. He's still that dude, and he fits perfectly in Philly. I mean, the fan base. You know how they are. They are crazy and rambunctious, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is that dude to fill in there. Especially speaking of guys to fill in, long awaited, coming from across the pond as well, my man Johnny Santucci, the Tooch. What's good, brother? What's going on?
Back from travels
to
Asia, what's up, fellas?
How you doing, mate?
Oh,
did you have like a second marriage when you were out there?
Yes,
the other week
yes.
too? I saw the pictures on Facebook. So a second congratulations to you and Mrs. Tooch.
Thank you. Yeah, I was we had gotten just a civil ceremony in Chicago 6 years ago. My wife wanted to do like with her family,
cool.
An actual wedding. It was a lot of fun, man. It was a beautiful resort. Had a great time, but man, I am so jet lagged. It's like it's midnight. I'm used to it being midnight right now. So I'm trying to get back on Central Time. Missed a few Bears game. Missed the Jets game. But
you didn't miss much.
It
was a rough one, bud. We came out of there beaten and bruised. Lost a safety and a wide receiver along the way. That was a tough one to watch, let me tell you.
Yeah, but I'm glad to be back. And today's game, a bunch of questions pop out for today's game. Probably first and foremost is, how do the Bears measure up against the number one team in the NFL?
Mm-hmm.
Let's not joke around. The Eagles are probably the best team in the NFL. The defense is great. The offensive line is great. The quarterback's playing at a high level. The offense is playing at a high level. You've got A.J. Brown and Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts, who are quite capable of throwing points up there. And another question I think could be asked is, do we want Justin Fields to play? I mean, I hate to say it, but I might put him on the shelf, just until next year. I don't know. I
want him to play Tooch now. I want him to play.
We all do.
Every game.
Every game. It's a legitimate question, especially when you see what happened with Kyler Murray last year. Tears his ACL. He's going to be out until mid-season next year. You would hate to see something like that, but man, when you see Justin make the plays Justin makes, and you saw what Trevor Siemian gave you in that Jets game, it's tough to just say, sit this one out, bud. And take the month off.
Think about it. Kyler Murray goes down non-contact injury last week, and will probably miss most of next season recovering from an ACL tear. I mean, that means, okay, so if that were to happen, God forbid, we're probably have to draft a quarterback, with our top pick, somebody else. Will Levis, we might have to,
buddy, you tell me I ain't on the jersey.
That'd be too much for AC. I don't know how much AC's fandom could take if Will Levis gets to Chicago.
And then do we want the Bears to win? That's another legitimate question. Or can they win? Two legitimate questions. I can't see them winning. I don't even know if they can cover 8.5 points. But I'll be watching the game. Jordy says time to work on the passing game, but we can work on the passing game in the offseason. I'd rather go into next season with everybody healthy. I mean, look, there's no wide receivers today. We've got our two best wide receivers out, arguably our two best with Mooney and Claypool. I think guys like Equanimeous St. Brown and Dante Pettis, out there, they're not gonna help us beat the Eagles very much. I'm sorry, we just don't have players this year.
I would like to see, like we saw before the bye, Fields making some downfield passes, which is a good sign for your O-line. And we got N'Keal Harry. Maybe we can try and see if he's worth bringing back, because I believe his contract's up at the end of this season. So he's got a good month to prove to the Bears, yes, I am here for a rebuild. Yes, I can be a part of this. Jordan Silvera said with any luck, the Eagles play their backups by the 4th. If they are up big, that's something to watch for, because they do have a short week. They play the Cowboys, I think, next Saturday. Of course, that's going to be game of the year. They're probably going to be pushing this game while this game is going on, especially if it goes as a lot of us Bears fans think may happen. So they might rest their guys and let them get ready for that showdown with the Cowboys next week. But I don't have high hopes either. I do want to see Justin play. I know you're taking that risk of could he get hurt or could something bad happen? But man, you just you can't sit your best player. I just don't see it unless it's the last week of the season. You don't have anything to play for. Like maybe the Vikings might be in that position against us. I'm sorry, Aldo and Dan. I know you're going to that game. Maybe that'll be a tough game to go to, because you might see Trevor Siemian versus whomever the Vikings have as their backup. I know they got rid of the guy they drafted. Caesar says maybe it's time for Valus to step up. I mean, he's a 3rd-round pick. You haven't seen anything out of him other than muff punts. It just really sucks. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. You hate to waste that pick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my worry is that Justin Fields tries to do a little too much in this game. Vegas has his rushing attempts at 10.5, over under 10.5. So you're looking at the bulk of our offense being Justin Fields and David Montgomery rushing. That doesn't give me assurance that something might not. It's not reassuring that everything is going to be safe.
Yeah, I mean, he only ran the ball 6 times against the Packers. They really started opening the offense as a passing offense, which is nice to see because at least I've heard from non-Bears fans all year. Yeah, okay, Fields has almost 1,000 yards rushing, but what's he doing through the air to help you out? He's missing throws. He's turning the ball over. I mean, let's be honest. He's been given the chance to win ball games late against Commanders, and we know what happened with Mooney double clutching the catch that lost us that game. The Vikings, the ball got stripped from his wide receiver. He's been given these against the Lions. Even he was given the chance to win that ball game, and he throws a pick 6 to Okuda, which really killed the game. He threw 2 picks last week or 2 weeks ago against the Packers with the game on the line. So you want to see. I want to see him continue to get better with decision makings, especially with the game on the line. I know it would suck for us as where our draft pick is. It would suck for us to actually win some games, but if you're looking for him as the franchise quarterback, which I believe he is, you want to see those come through in those moments and be clutch, be the man, show us you're the man. And I know the supporting cast isn't great, but I mean, how many times do we see Tom Brady go down and win a ball game with Julian Edelman and Wes Welker and not a great supporting cast? He really only had one guy who was Randy Moss one year, and he goes undefeated with the guy. You know what I'm saying? So I want to see that out of Justin going forward. And I know it's a long-winded answer there, but.
I mean, what I'd like to see is just to get a win, just to finish the season on a win, just so the team can feel what a victory is like, so they can, use that sort of energy, in the off season, just if we just won a game, and that's so desperate. God, that is a desperate statement, isn't it? Really, just win a game, just win any game. But I just think it'd just be such a good thing for the squad, just to get that victory feeling in them and realise that what they have been doing throughout the year is working. But for me, I'd like to see Justin Fields get the reps, as many reps as he can, and obviously injury free as well.
And I know the Eagles have looked great, but let's not beat around the bush. They struggled with the Colts, and they struggled. There was another game where they struggled and ended up winning at the end. So this team looks great. It looks like the best team in the league, but they're not gettable. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Am I crazy?
It makes total sense, because I could totally envision a scenario where the Eagles just take the Bears lightly and they just kind of phone this one in. Like Bears hang around within a touchdown and stuff like that. The line is curious at 8.5. I'm sure a majority of the number of money is on the Eagles. So Vegas needs the Bears to cover this one. It's like it'll take them a while. It's the same thing when the Eagles played the Texans, and I think the Eagles were favored by 14. And all the money was on the Eagles covering a double-digit number like that. I had to hold my nose and take the Texans, and the Texans lost by 11, and I got the cover. But it's not something I would like to do today. But I don't know. Can the Bears cover 8.5? I could also see the game getting out of hand. The Bears. Let me ask you: if the game's really out of hand, are you in favor of pulling Justin Fields then? There's no point in.
I think so. Yeah, I would keep him in there as long as it's a competitive game. But yeah, if they start pulling away like they did against the Giants last week, I think they beat them 48-20 something. So if it starts looking like that, yeah, I'd pull Justin at that point. And I don't know if I'm putting in Simeon or Simeon's out for the year, so it'd have to be Peterman. I would like to. I know you brought this up, Tooch, but I'd like to bring this up here. There's a quarterback mid to late to develop for the future, uses trade bait down. Nix, Digger, who you got? Honestly, I watched him play. and I've heard Aldo bring this up to Greg Gabriel and a couple other guys. Is there a guy you would bring in to have, like, if you look at the Ravens, they have 3 quarterbacks who all have similar traits. They can run the same offense regardless of who's in there. I would love to see that in Chicago. There's a guy out of Louisville named Malik Cunningham who isn't great by any stretch of the imagination, but he does have the ability to run, and he's got a little bit of an arm. I mean, it's not like a great arm. So that's a guy I would watch for. And I think the kid out of UCLA, I would have to check with Jordan on his name because he is in that area. But I think the kid out of UCLA has some dual threat ability. You might be able to grab him late as well. I can't remember.
DTR, Dorian Thompson Robinson. So this is I was about to ask you guys this question before our threw that up there. Brock Purdy is a quarterback that played about a half hour from me at Iowa State. You know, and I always thought he was a decent quarterback, but he's on Iowa State. They don't have the talent level of a Georgia, an Alabama, a Tennessee, or any of those big. A lot of
people forget Brock Purdy was getting first round consideration if he had come out as a junior, and then he decided to go back, I believe, for his senior year, and all of a sudden
that didn't pay off.
Yeah,
first round, Mr. Irrelevant. But Brock Purdy, to me, is an example of why you take a shot on a guy in nearly every draft, at least every other draft, which is what Ryan Pace had told us. I'm going to draft a quarterback every draft. That's what the Packers used to do under Ron Wolf. They would draft. They had Mark Brunell over there. I forget who else was all those guys they were drafting. And they end up trading them for Matt. What was the guy's name that went to Seattle? Was it Matt Castle? Something like that. All those guys that were there, they had as backups. Malik Cunningham's a good name. It has kind of like a similar game to Justin Fields.
He broke Lamar's records at Louisville, the rushing and passing yards. He broke them.
Right.
He was there an extra year, but still, I mean, J2K is talking about drafting for need. You get into an issue with that a little bit, J2K. I mean, I know we have a lot of holes to fill, but if you start drafting for need instead of taking the best player available, that's
Matt
how
Flynn,
you end
that's
up.
the guy, yeah.
That's how you end up with busts.
J-Rock's got it. Our mentioned Max Duggan, other guy played at Council Bluffs, Iowa, as a high schooler. Another guy that led TCU to almost a perfect season.
Yeah. We'll see him play a good defense against Michigan. So
not happening BT9.
He's going to come in for a discounted rate. Back up Justin.
Yeah. But yeah, you take a shot on the guy, whether it's the 7th round or whatever. I mean, Brock Purdy is a guy. He doesn't. We did it. We had Kyle Orton. 4th round, the perfect example. Rex goes down. Kyle Orton did, another Iowa guy, Altoona, Iowa. Maybe we should just draft Iowa guys.
My father-in-law loves him some Kyle Orton. He still swears that he's better than Cutler, but Jordan says JTR likely won't be selected. Maybe you don't have to use draft capital on a guy that you can bring in and say, look, I mean, you're not going to be the starter, but we feel like your game is similar to Justin's, and if Justin does have any issues, you're the guy. And I feel like it's definitely something that we should talk about, look into this offseason, because
it's going to take him a while to learn this system, right? Yeah. Because look how many games it takes Justin to get comfortable in this system this year. 7. By mid-season, he felt a little more comfortable, and only when he started really using his legs did this offense start to open up a little bit more for him. But a guy like a similar skill set, just like you said, AC, Malik Cunningham would be nice to throw in. I don't know what round he's, Jordan Silvera would know better than I what round is Jordan coming on today, or? Well,
he came on and he was really delayed, so he kind of dropped back to the backstage, and he's with us in the chat. But I'm trying to think. I was going to say something. Oh, the Tennessee quarterback, Hendon Hooker. He was a Heisman candidate, tore his ACL. But you don't need him to come right in and play. I don't know what his draft status is, his value for that matter. But if he drops because of that injury, if you can pick him up late,
there you go.
as much as I hate to say it because he played for that damn Orange team down south.
That was the guy I was going to mention too.
He's a baller, dude. He puts the ball on his guys, and he can move around too. He's deceptively fast. He's no Justin Fields running a 4.4, but he's pretty damn good. I'll be honest.
Yeah, and I think let's see the a guy that you want to me keep an eye on today would be you want to have a big game today is Cole Kmet with the main wide receivers out. I don't know if you guys talked about this. I'm sorry, I can't. We
talked a lot about draft and very little about Packers or even this game. I mean, we talked about how the Eagles have built their roster and notes that we can take from them, as
it's
well
a good
as the
blueprint
game
for the Bears.
It is.
Yeah.
It's the blueprint for the Bears right now. And like everyone always says, it's a copycat league. And people are going to be looking at the Eagles, but the one thing that a lot of teams don't have is a guy like Jalen Hurts, but the Bears do. They've got a Justin Fields, and like my fear is I don't want to put the jinx on it, but I want Justin Fields to be healthy and in training camp the full time and doing everything to get ready for next season, because next season I think if we put the right pieces together in free agency and the draft, we have a chance to take a step. Like, unfortunately, I hate to admit it, but the Lions, red hot Lions, I think have covered 5 games in a row against the spread. Now, Mike White is out from Western Kentucky quarterback Mike White, another Kentucky guy, who can really sling it. You know, a lot of those Western Kentucky quarterbacks come out and play in a complex passing offense. But you're getting Zach Wilson, and I like the Jets with Mike White. With Zach Wilson, I'm on the Lions today, but Lions out of their dome. I don't know. I think it'll be a close game, but
Jordan, asking if
is Jordan on my side? Is Jordan on my side here with I guess Jordan's kind of on my side today with resting Justin Fields. But I mean, I get what you're saying, Chris and AC, that people who pay for their tickets at Soldier Field, they're not paying to see Nathan Peterman. Let's just be honest here, right?
And if we had a guy on the bench that kind of like a Malik Cunningham, like a DTR, like the guys we've been talking about, maybe I'd be more okay with telling Justin, hey, let's just chill on this, let's just sit out. But and you have someone who can still run a similar type offense, but I really want to see him against Super Bowl contenders, which he's going to play all the rest of them. Let's be honest. You just talked about the Lions, how red hot they are. That offense can go against anybody, and the defense is improving. The Vikings, they're probably the luckiest team in the NFL. How many times have we seen them dominate with comebacks? I mean, no lead is too big for them, it appears. And of course, the next 2 weeks you're playing who I think could very easily be the Super Bowl matchup this year. So you got Philly and then Buffalo. So it's hard for me to say, go ahead and sit down, Justin. We'll try and tank. I mean, then you'll definitely hear things of tanking, and who knows? Maybe look at the Miami. They lost that. Well, I guess that was tampering with the Tom Brady and Sean Payton is why they lost their first round pick. But it's tough, man.
Well,
so you got Bear Truth 9.
Yeah.
Question for the crowd: Monty or Josh Jacobs if you had to choose between the two in free agency? I know my answer. But I'll let you guys.
I'd have to say Josh Jacobs, even though I absolutely adore Monty's running back. I just think Jacobs they're very similar, but I just think Jacobs just got a bit more top speed than Monty's got.
Go ahead.
I like Josh Jacobs. I don't think he's going to give you a hometown discount like Monty might. But my philosophy with running backs, I love running backs. I love the Bears running backs, but you could find one. There's going to be a lot of good ones coming out this draft. I'll tell you that. It's a great year for running backs, man. So I don't know, man. Probably neither. Is that an acceptable answer?
Jordan says Josh Jacobs. If I have to choose between these guys in free agency, I'm going Monty. I feel like he brings more of the intangibles that Josh Jacobs wouldn't have. He's a leader on the team. The guys look up to him. his blocking ability is excellent. He does have subpar speed, but again, just like Tooch said, man, you look at the draft. Chris, we talked about it earlier about guys that are sitting out bowl games. My guy Chris Rodriguez, you've seen him run all over SEC defenses. He could be a guy you could draft later, or maybe not even drafted. Jordan brings up a great name, Chase Brown out of Illinois. Bring him to Chicago, keep him in Illinois. The guy he put up Heisman type numbers in the Illinois system. He is very slept on just because he's a running back. But yeah, that's a guy that I've been watching lately and a lot of my mock drafts, when I get around the 5th, 6th round, late down in there, I'm like, if he's sitting there, he's coming to my team because he's a baller for sure.
Yeah, and I want to let people know I'll be on Fantasy Football Goon after this show in about 20 minutes. So if people are interested in setting lineups or questions for playoffs, I know
if you're in the playoffs, dude, I'm in so many leagues where I was like 7-6 and just missed.
I know. Me too, dude.
So fucking pissed.
Me too. This season was weird for fantasy football, and I think, in most leagues I'm in, like the best record right now is like 9-4 or something like whatever it is, 10-4. Nobody's like 14-0 in any of the leagues I'm in. It's just one of those years. Both a lot of like 8-6, 7-7s out there. But as far as this game, I think we're looking at like a 28-17 Eagles win.
Yeah, I don't know. Jordan brings up another guy, Zach Charbonnet. I believe he's out of UCLA as well. They use him quite a bit out there. I haven't seen much on him. It's hard for me on the West Coast teams because they kick off at like 10 p.m. here. So sometimes I can get a half in, but after that, it's about it's a wrap for OAC. He's ready for bed. But that'll definitely be a name that'll be popping up around draft day, and we'll have to watch this off season. But yeah, you mentioned the fantasy show that's coming on in 10-15 minutes. So let's go ahead and wrap this thing. We'll talk about your score prediction, bowl prediction, offensive, defensive MVP, and shout-outs. We'll start with you, Chris. Go ahead and hit it, bud.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, shout-out is obviously to UAC. Sunday afternoons with the AC, man, it's always a joy. And it's good to see Tooch coming back from his CD underground porn industry, what he's actually doing out in the Philippines.
It looks like he's about to drop the brand new iPhone with that sweater on.
Yeah, man.
I got a Bears Byram sweater.
Oh, okay, nice.
But no, it's always good to have Tooch on. It's great to see you, mate. And thanks to everybody in the chat. You're great. And I think the score will be 28-14 to Philadelphia. Offense, let's just concentrate on Justin Fields and see if he can keep improving, see what he can do with all these players out injured. Defense, it's got to be our favourite AC, the jackhammer. So I think that's what will be the score, unfortunately. I think it'll be 28-14, but let's just you never know. So let's just always live in hope, fellow Bears fans.
All right, go ahead, Tooch, and I'll finish this out.
Yeah, like I said, 28-17, Philadelphia. I just want everyone to come out of this game healthy. That's my biggest thing. If anything happens, I hope if it gets out of reach, the Bears will do the smart thing and pull the players who are essential for next year. Shout outs to all the barroom guys, you two, for doing a great job, and glad to be back, man. It's a long. It's like 2 to 3 days just to get over there and back.
Wow.
I was awake for 48 hours straight on the way out there. And I was sick my first like week there. Then I end up drinking the water. So you can't. It's like Mexico. You can't drink the local water. You're paying for it, man. When I was sick from the water, man, my back locked up to me, and my wife and her family took me to like a healer. It was like hut in some shanty town where this lady tortured me like a prisoner of war. Got my back unlocked. Fucking, I was sweating my ass off, gripping the chair. I was like, "Give it to me, give it." So, but, yeah, just take. I'm like Barnes in Platoon. Take the pain.
She give you some of that ayahuasca tea there, Tooch?
No ayahuasca. Man, she like got all the stiffness out of my back. I was like, good. I was good after that, man. Just good for the rest of the trip, pretty much. So, but the airplane seats and laying in a hard bed or whatever, just locked me up. But I was really doubtful. Like going to this dark hut, like what the hell? Some lady comes out, it's hot oil and liniments, and she was like, no mercy, fucking. But yeah, glad to be on U.S. soil for now.
Yeah. For sure. All right. I'm sorry, fellas. After watching the Eagles last week, I think they're going to drop a 50 burger on us. I really do. I think it's going to get ugly. I'm thinking Philly 52, Bears give us 35. I think our offense does well enough, but our defense just can't stop him. Jack can't do it himself. We don't get pressure on the quarterback with our D line, and Jalen Hurts is going to eat you up if you don't put some hits on him. To be completely honest, J2K is right on line with me. He says 42-17 Philly. Offensive MVP, I got to go with Fields because I can't name anybody else other than maybe Monty. I think
there's no other choice.
Yeah, I think Fields has a day. He runs well, and I'd like to see him get some more deep balls. Let's see some N'Keal Harry. Let's see if Velus Jones can find his hands. I don't know, anybody. I mean, we need someone to step up. You got Chase Claypool and you've got, of course, Mooney out. So you need someone to step up. You talk about Cole Kmet. He could be a guy to watch, obviously. But the Philly's not all offense. They got a good defense too, because they wouldn't have the record they have otherwise. You know what I'm saying? You got to have a full team. Football is definitely the ultimate team sport. You can't just bring LeBron in and go to the title game. You know what I'm saying? You got to have a full team, and we're just not there. And it's going to show today. It's going to show how far away we are. Defensive
Totally
MVP.
agree.
I just talked about Sanborn. I think he racks up a ton of tackles. Maybe gets a turnover at some point. I love the jackhammer. I've been talking about him since he started on here.
What a find!
Yeah, right. And speaking of him, and speaking of what we have in common with the Eagles, their middle linebacker is an undrafted free agent who built his way into the starting role and has played well as well. So that's another thing we have in common with the Philadelphia Eagles. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Don Burr, even you, man, your Lions are looking really good, man. I'm happy for you. I know your fan base has been suffering for a long time, and I'm happy for you guys who stuck it out.
I got to thank Don for staying away until the very end of the show.
Yeah, right. Stayed for the shout outs. Shout out to Jordan Silvera. I'm sorry we couldn't get on track and we were having a delay issue, but I appreciate you hopping on here early with us, man. I love your insight. You're my guy when I'm talking draft picks or anything like that. I just talked to my guy Jordan.
I love Jordan Silvera. Can I just say that? He's got a nice new haircut too. I got to say, I like your haircut too.
He's always got nice hair. My guy, I can't pull it off. Yeah. That's why I wear a hat all the time. Shout out to Tooch coming in here late, man. I'm glad you had a great trip to the Philippines. And
I'll hear all about it on Tuesday night.
I'll have to listen to it Wednesday because y'all go a little late for your boy, but I'll listen in. I'll listen to it back on Spotify. Shout out to my man C-Dub. Like I said, man, no matter rain, sleet, snow, it don't matter. On top of a mountain, my guy is here every Sunday for it. So cheers to you, man. Cheers, mate, as you like to say. My guy Chris Watts is definitely never a wanker. Always there for me, man, and I appreciate it for real. You've definitely been an excellent addition to the Barfly Tailgate show. We'll definitely continue this friendship for the future. Trying to get you over to Soldier Field, man, and having a big sometime next year. We'll have a big
I'm already a wanker off screen. That's the trick to do, AC.
And someone was asking if we're doing a show next week. I actually have plans to maybe ask Aldo if we can have a Holy shit, Jordan, is this real? N'Keal Harry is inactive. What the fuck? Who are we throwing to?
You.
Simba Webster was activated.
Oh wow, let's fire
It'll
the
be
torches for that one.
Pettis and Equinemius St. Brown.
Pettis, I
Right?
like
Velus
Pettis,
Jones.
but man, he just
Yeah.
can't hold on to shit. He said it's a Chris Emma tweet. I'm not sure who Chris Emma is, but he's probably got a blue check mark that I don't have. Oh man, that just really killed my momentum. I want to talk to Aldo for next week because if we do a show, it will be a Christmas Eve show. Maybe we can get a big ballroom Christmas Eve show and have everyone come in here. Maybe not even talk Bears. Maybe we'll just have a couple of drinks and talk. You know, just the guys hanging out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know
can
we've
do
done
that.
it in
I
the
can do
past.
that.
Yeah, I know we've done it in the past. I'll have to get with Aldo. I'll shoot him a message after we get off here and see if
we had a
he's
Christmas
interested.
show one year back with Shane and Phil and the gang and
Yeah,
stuff.
I was pretty drunk when they called me. I think I was at a Christmas party. I had a couple of White Russians in me, you know, and I was feeling pretty good that night. But that'd be a fun show to do. But, I mean, other than that, man, you guys stay tuned here. Tucci is going to tell you how to set your lineup if you're in the playoffs. If you're not in the playoffs, I'm sorry. Maybe you can look in for next year who you might want to draft and stuff like that. Definitely stay tuned here on the Barroom Network. Cubs yesterday, I saw they finally signed a shortstop. Thank freaking God, because we missed out on everybody else. We brought in the guy from Atlanta, who was the fourth best shortstop. They're going to bring him in, and I don't know if they'll move him to second or third base and let Nico do the shortstop or how they're going to – I'll let them figure that out. That's why they make the big bucks. But thankfully they made a signing. But, yeah, right here on the Barroom Network, you've got Sox Talk, Cubs Talk, Blackhawks Talk. You got all your teams. We should probably get a Chicago Fire and a Chicago Sky show. I think Neil Stopchinski's a big Fire fan, so – that could be something to look forward to in the future. But definitely, if you're into Chicago sports, stay tuned right here to our YouTube channel. Hit that like, hit subscribe, leave a comment. Shout out to the chat. Yeah, Dansby Swanson. Yeah, my guy Calvin Swanson. So he can get him a jersey that matches his last name. matches his last name. Oh, it's his cousin. Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome. Hey, get the white one with the blue pinstripes. There's nothing more beautiful than that in the MLB. I don't care what anybody has to say. Yep. But, so definitely stay tuned here on the Ballroom. Subscribe, and it'll let you know when we go live. We've got shows all over the network all week long. Phone 55 comes through and tells you what to watch for every week. It's just an awesome show. If I could get a word in on Buffon, I'd probably go on there, but we probably have a boxing match of who's going to talk more. You guys know I like to talk. But yeah,
USC.
Yeah, right. Crazy, right?
Okay, now.
But we'll get on out of here and leave everybody with a big old bear down.
Bear down, mate.
Bear down.